those employer-driven initiatives really affect our learning environments because we need a more learner-centered environment that has more of a constructivist pedagogy to it. The instructors are more of a guide on the side, like our boss. My boss is more of a guide on the side instead of over me, saying do this, do this, do this, do this, and telling me and directing me all day long. And then the activities are very discovery and team-based. Here's a ton of different research that our researchers did in doing the research and things that they learned about with teaching and learning and technology and how things have changed. So I like to show that slide and then go into this slide that shows our classrooms. And that first classroom that we see is a classroom that archaeologists say was probably around 2000 BC. Okay? And then next to that, you see a classroom probably in 1900. And then down here, this is from 1950, and then this is year 2000. Okay? So we acknowledge that our students are different, and we acknowledge that our employers are looking for different qualities in their laborers. But our education and our way that we're teaching has stayed the same for thousands of years. What we've found or what we've heard is a lot of teachers will say that they want the same thing that they've had. We want my classroom to look like my classroom when I was a teacher. But Henry Ford said it best when he said, if I would have given people what they wanted, we'd all have faster horses. So here's the question, what are the challenges in classrooms that we have today? So let's look at a couple of classrooms. Let's look at this one. And here we have a classroom, we put kids in the desk, and we have a teacher at the front, and they pose a problem, and they say, okay, I want you to get in groups and come up with different solutions. And maybe they even put different restrictions on the solutions for the different groups. So what does it look like? All of a sudden, the kids get up. There's chaos, desks are moving. We've got backpacks all strung out here, jackets, all their stuff goes everywhere. They rearrange their desk into groups. They forgot a notepad. They go back to get it. They sit down, they look at each other, and they say, what were we supposed to do again? So now the teacher's back up here, reiterating. This is what you're going to do, this, that, and the other. So then they start working in their groups. They work, they get a solution. Now it's time to share. So that whole chaos comes back again. Moving desks back, backpacks. The teacher, this is a landmine as the teacher is trying to walk through to try to get to different groups of kids. Okay? So just not effective, not efficient in this setting. Here's another picture. Okay? I could look at this picture of this classroom in two ways. One, if it's a classroom, then I don't see any collaboration, any way to problem solve, to go find out to be self-directed in my learning, to have interaction with the teacher. If this kid has a question with their paper here, how in the world is that teacher ever going to get to them through all this maze of desks and bags and stuff that's behind here to get there? This type classroom also reminds me of a very left-brain job. And our employers today, we're not looking for left-brain employees. So this looks to me as if it was like a telethon, where they're picking up a phone, they're asking questions, taking down information, thank you, goodbye, they're doing it again. Almost similar to that of a manufacturing line. So if our job doesn't look like this, if our workplaces don't look like this today, why should our classrooms look like this today? So most of our classrooms, when they were started troubleshooting with it, most of them were developed between the 1970s. They don't support collaborative learning. They're very lectured focused. They don't have much flexibility. Even the support for evolving technology just isn't there. Okay. Let me skip this. This kind of says the same thing. So what Steelcase did is they created LearnLab, and that's where all their research and all their stuff happened. This was actually an old warehouse. I'll click again and show you how it changed. This was the inside of the warehouse. This is what it looks like today. When they changed it, they opened it up, they added windows. This is actually changed, sorry. Oh, actually no, I'm sorry. That was a different picture. All of these desks, chairs, everything's on casters. So everything actually moves together and then back apart. So it's really easy to transition into groups and then come back. There's different medias throughout the classroom as well for different collaboration. And And then here's another picture of a lab. This one was used for a lot of computer education where they're on carts and can move together to collaborate together. According to what I've heard, this was a library area that was never ever used, that they turned into a learning space for collaborative group stuff. This here was interactive type whiteboard that they used for capturing data stuff in this setting. Okay. And then they have an inspiration piece outside in the courtyard. So the idea was, or the hypothesis is allowing classrooms to seamlessly transition between lecture and group will enhance learning. And so this is kind of what their sketch of what they did, where you've got different collaboration areas. You've got a projector up here showing data. You've kind of got more of your teacher spot where their computer and stuff would be in the room, but the teacher can move about wherever they need to be. And what research showed us, I'll come to a picture here in just a second. Here's another one. Let me find a picture I'm looking for. These different labs. Here we go. I can't even find it. It's here, and then there's another picture way somewhere else. What they found was the teacher was migrating throughout the edges of the room throughout the entire time. They had, it was on another slide a second ago, I think 700 hours of video that they did watching the students interact. They did, I think it was close to 2,000 different pictures that they took in this environment. And then the triangle, the idea behind the setup is that the information is in or the school or the classroom is set up into a triangle type setting. And you've got information persistence. So you've got different information. So it really what happens is every classroom becomes the best seat in the house here because I can see no matter where I am. I can collaborate here. The teacher, there's no teacher desk in these classrooms because the teacher was up and here and was kind of a guide on the side the entire time. Show some others. This also, what was important in the key findings was capturing and retrieval of information. So capturing the different information that we do today with like interactive whiteboards and such devices, and then providing that back. And we know that research tells us that whenever we get the information presented to us one way, and then it's given to us back again in that same format, that it really creates this middle map, and then we're able to recall it later. So when I'm talking to teachers and I'm talking about using interactive whiteboards and stuff, and most of them will say, how many of your kids have 504 modifications? And half of them, over half of them will raise their hand and say, how many of you have to do hand typed, or handwritten or notes to your students? And all, yeah. Research tells us if we do those notes with those students in that classroom, or they do them in a group together, and then they leave with those notes in the exact same format that they were presented, that the retention and the recall rate is so much higher than if I, as a teacher, go home and type up all those notes real pretty with fonts and such, and then give them back to those kids, because they have an experience attached to this. There's the picture I was looking for earlier with the teacher there. Okay. So after they did the study themselves, then Eastville College did their own study. They wanted to be a case study for this, and it was a volunteer type thing with the professor, and it was in one semester, and they did 8 different courses, 12 different professors, 160 students. And then they used the same type of research methods that we had used in our original finding. And the key questions is would this provide proper tools for multiple disciplines and teaching styles, and would this foster a sense of community for diverse backgrounds and age groups? And here's what we found out. Okay. So the outcomes: 1, it did foster a collaborative learning environment. Students were able to collaborate easily in that setting. It did support different learning styles. It did build a sense of community. and it promoted quick assessment of student work. Okay, here's the two big ones, right? The dropout rate was reduced from 50% to less than 12%. These were those same classes that we did before that had the high dropout or fail rates. The other big one, it increased the grade point average 19%, and this is the huge one. The coursework was completed 3 weeks early. This was the same coursework that these teachers had been doing year after year after year, that had a plan. And now all of a sudden, the coursework was fixed. 3 weeks early, what do we do? So the students were motivated to be there. Discipline wasn't an issue. They were able to collaborate. They were able to do all those things that we want them to do whenever they have a job. There was lots of peer-to-peer tutoring that happened. So we've all, it happened to us all, it happened to me, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, the teacher says something like, who doesn't understand? And you raise your hand. And all of a sudden, you know, after doing that a few times, you realize that when you raise your hand, you're saying, yep, it's me, I'm the idiot in the room that doesn't understand. Let's stop class and wait for me to figure it out. When you set up your classrooms in this sense, instead of that kid saying, look, me, I don't understand, I can lean over to Dr. Estes and say, now where is she at again? Or show me what she just showed me. And then you have peer-to-peer tutoring happening the entire time during your classroom, during your class. Okay. Let's see. Here's just a couple other places, other pictures and such where you see the room doesn't have to be perfect in order to get this X or triangular configuration. There are lots of different collaboration spaces, lots of different medias to use. Here's another example. And that's what we found. Or still case found in their research. Any questions? In Polyvision, because we're owned by Steelcase, we do the exact same type research in developing our products. So with our interactive whiteboards, we've looked at what's working, what's not working, how do we make things better. You know, even if people aren't asking for it yet, how do we take it to the next level?